Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Prism, and today, I'm sorry for the clickbaity title, but I really wanted to talk to you a little bit about my experiences of going to one of the UK's top rated and top ranked law schools and finishing my degree and doing pretty well in my degree, and my experiences of going there, experiences of graduating and coming out, and kind of where I'm at now, looking back on that experience years later. This video isn't necessarily about why you should not go to law school. This video is mainly about thinking and reflecting before you apply and even before you actually attend, if law school is something that A, is appropriate for you, and given the other options out there, and B, whether it's something that you really actually want to do, and down the line whether that decision will still make sense. A lot of people, if they don't really know what to do, go to law school and think it's a really good idea to go to law school, and it might be for some people, but I really don't think that going to law school because you don't know what else to do is a good enough reason to go to law school. A lot of people like me go to law school because their parents think, it's a secure degree that can take you into a good profession, that you can have some good earning potential afterwards and go straight into a job. These things may be true, but they may not be either A, what you want, or B, really worth the investment and the cost in a law degree. Okay, so we have to talk about why you want to be a lawyer. I had the wrong reasons for being a lawyer. I became a lawyer because I came from a single parent family, and my dad wasn't around since I was a kid. My mum came from a very working class immigrant background to this country, and she works night and day to give me a good education and make sure I'll get into university. So I felt like I really owed her the sense to go to university. And it's a whole different conversation about going to university. When I was much younger, as a kid and a young adult, I was so into music. I actually really wanted to be a singer, and I still make music now, and it's something I do for fun, and it's a hobby. But I really wanted a career in music and the performing arts, and I used to love acting and musicals, and that was where my heart really lied. But because of what my mum went through and her wishes, it was such a pressure and a burden on me. But I also wanted to do her proud, and I worked really, really hard at school as a typical Asian boy. So it was either be a doctor or be an accountant or be a lawyer. My aunt was a doctor, so that was crossed off the list. Didn't have to do that. I'm not a huge fan of cutting into people and blood, but I know not all doctors do that. I was really into writing, and I really loved the arts, and reading, and English literature was my favourite subject. So naturally, it was like, if you can write, if you're good with words, go be a lawyer. Probably the wrong reasons to go do a law degree, and there's so many reasons for that. Okay, so if you even do want to be a lawyer down the line, you don't obviously have to do a law degree. They often say, when I was at law school, that it's a roughly 50-50 split between the top partners of people who studied law as a degree, people who did other subjects. I really do feel you've got one chance to go to university and have an experience that is unique, and not only delve into a subject and spend 3 years of your life learning about something you're already passionate about, whether that's like gardening or botanical studies, or being a marine biologist, or even English literature or a period of history you're really fascinated by. I always wish I did English literature, but I didn't quite have the balls to tell my mum that's what I wanted to go and study. And if you go and study something you're really passionate about, that will come through in your learning. So much of university is about independent research, independent learning, and fostering this sense of kind of going out on your own to libraries and looking up kind of books and delving into subject areas that you're really interested in, looking at topics for your dissertation that you're really interested in. And I knew friends of mine who ended up doing really well and getting firsts at Durham in English, which is their top department, because they were so fascinated and in love with their subject. Like one of my friends, she studied diaspora writings of black female authors, and she got a first in that dissertation in such a competitive subject because she was so passionate about it. I wasn't passionate about my subjects. I grinned and bared it at the time. I didn't know myself as well. I was in denial, and I was like, I have to just do this, have to get through, and have to be a lawyer. But some of my darkest and most miserable days were in that law library. It was so dry. And in the first term, I knew I didn't want to do this, but I had the mindset of like, I'm here once, I made it this far, I may as well push myself and finish this. The problem is, if you really know that this thing isn't for you and you keep pushing yourself, you do end up getting depressed and into burnout. And that's what happened to me by the end of university. I was so depressed and burnt out with the way my life was going and what I was studying, and I didn't have enough of the balls to change it or do something about it. And it took me a long time, it still is taking me a long time to recover, and that's part, I've just accepted that that's going to be part of my journey. And whatever I do next, I will always have to take it a bit slower. I won't be able to go at the pace I always want to go, and I will just have this thing at the back of my mind, I really got to take care of myself. But I think that could have been mitigated or avoided if I had actually chosen a degree that was honestly less kind of workaholic. I mean, there was the culture around lawyers who were doing a law degree. They have to be in the library until silly o'clock in the morning, and there was a horrible competition between people where people would try to, take out all the books for a subject from the library or rip out pages of things, and it just wasn't a necessarily nice atmosphere to be in, where the English lit students were so much more artistic, and I actually ended up hanging out with them all the time, which was great. The other thing about university is, you go once in your life, and for 3 years you can be a student, and you get free rein to explore all the options there are for you. When you're in a law degree, it's so intense. You've got way less time. I did a lot of extracurricular activities. I did more than any other lawyer I knew, because that's what I knew I wanted to get out of my university experience. But I just wish if I did do an art subject, I would have had more time to look into doing stuff that I'd never done before, like go rock climbing or join a film society and make short films. I would love to have done more student radio and present a radio show. I actually did loads of theatre, and I loved that. That was my favourite thing. But it just, on reflection, even if you want to be a lawyer down the line, having studied a subject you're really passionate about, that you've actually done really well in and will get higher marks in because you're passionate about, and also being really well-rounded because you've had, the emphasis and time to do extracurricular activities, will stand you way more in good stead than grinning and bearing through a law degree because, that's what is expected of you. And we also have to talk about money. So everybody assumes lawyers make loads of money. If you watch Suits, Ally McBeal, for people that are old enough, Will and Grace, Will's a lawyer. He's always got, a comfortable apartment to live in, food in the fridge. Sure, that stuff is fine. And, you look at the salaries of starting salaries for law, kind of grads who are going into training contracts, and you think in London you can get a, 35 grand salary in your first year. Amazing. What people don't tell you is, the kind of debt at first that you're racking up to get there. And you've looked at the time it takes you to get to that position as well. And then you also have to look at what billable hours in that job you are putting in to get that salary. So basically, there's a YouTuber that I really love, you guys should check out. He's called Liam Porritt. He does a lot of productivity and work optimization videos on YouTube. He went to Cambridge, he did law, and he is a lawyer at a top Magic Circle law firm. And he did a really interesting analysis on his career as a corporate lawyer and working out the amount of hours that he bills in the office compared to what he does, and it normally works out to about minimum wage. So you also have to take into account the amount of time it takes to get to that certain level. So once you're earning, you're in that training contract, you've not only paid for your fees at law school, you normally also have to get through 1 or 2 years of training. So that's either doing the GDL if you've not done law, and then converting to law, and then obviously the LPC, which might be obviously changing now, to then become a corporate lawyer. And so after all those fees and times, you have to pay back what you've borrowed, obviously like everybody does, and you're going to be earning minimum wage. So actually you're working out earning less than minimum wage in that job. If you compare that to, for example, finding a job that starts out lower paid, but you're really passionate about and you're excited about, for example, getting an internship in PR or working as a staff writer for a magazine or working in as an account manager or working in advertising, which are all options open to grads, there you have room to progress. And by the time that you finish training as a lawyer and you're in as a lawyer, you could be making that essentially same amount of money down the line. It might not be as rapid, but if you're also passionate about your job, I believe that also shows and you progress quicker. So that's another thing that's definitely been on my mind, looking back at whether doing a law degree was actually worth it. For me, it came down to a very simple question. I did my work experience at a magic circle law firm. I did all the right things at law school, and I absolutely, to be completely honest, hated it. I really thought kind of being stuck inside a cubicle with one partner in this kind of glass cage. It looked all kind of snazzy on the outside, but on the inside, people looked really miserable, and it looked incredibly serious, which obviously it should be, and it didn't suit my personality. And I also just felt it seemed like a prison, and to me, it's also very old school. It's supposed to be collegiate and collaborative, but it's a lot of kind of solo, independent analysis and like work and drafting of you in your cubicle, and that just didn't appeal to me. I'm much more of a sociable person, and I need other people's energy, and I love working together to get projects together. So again, as a personality thing, I just knew when I was working in a law firm, for me, that a career in law just wasn't the thing that I wanted to do, and just that drove me. And my mum and people still think that I'm mad and crazy, that I not only went to one of the top law schools in the country and got some of the top grades, but I just didn't want to do it, and that I'm wasting my degree. I don't think that experience is wasted. As I said, I met some friends that I have for life. I found passions that I'm cultivating now, which is like, I always knew that I wanted to write, and I love literature, and that made me so appreciative of the arts. And I'm now considering like a career in like travel writing and arts journalism. That's something that I was only exposed to while at Durham, and I made amazing friends, and I was exposed to so many people at the top of their game who had such diverse experience. That's something that can't be taken away from me. But if you're doing it just for the money, I think that's also a case to be miserable. There's also, it's something that is constantly reaffirmed in our culture and society, that basically doing something just for the money, people just chuck loads of money at you, but you're in a job that makes you miserable. You feel it's making you ill while you're there, and you can't wait for the day to be over, or you're clock watching constantly. You just want to get home. No matter how much money they throw at you, it's not going to make you happier. Yeah, you can, fill that void with buying nicer things and material things, or go move to a nicer apartment, or buy nicer clothes, or, splash more money on dates that you're going to meet up with people on Tinder or Hinge. That's not going to feed your soul. That's not going to feel who you are. And I knew I would be doing it for the wrong reasons if I kind of just literally just did it for the money. The good thing about being slightly older now, reflecting on this, is I've got friends who went straight into a law career after university. It was kind of the easier path. It was kind of, laid out for them. And honestly, hearing about how miserable they were and feeling quite trapped as well, because you'd worked so hard for so many years and then past all these obstacles and barriers, you then feel like it'd be such a waste of time to to change careers, or that you're too old to change careers, or that it's impossible for you to put that same energy or time in something else. No, I really believe if you've already spent so much time doing something that's making you miserable, why be more miserable? Life is so short, and it's been reaffirmed to me so much during COVID and in my personal life. My dad passed away when I was very, very young, and it gave me such a sense of how short life is, that you have to do honestly what makes you happy and put yourself and your priorities first. Only then can you be more of service to people. If you are in a place where you are living life with joy and there is abundance, and you are, making money from something that you are passionate about and you have income streams, you are then in a better position to give. And that's what people really want you to, is to give. When you are chained to a desk in an office that you really hate and you are miserable and you feel like you're suffering and you're doing it and you think, why am I doing this? You're empty, your cup is empty. What have you really got to give? And you try to give, but you've got nothing to give to people. And that's been a lesson that's been really, I've learned, and a very, very, very valuable lesson. So again, my experience is not for nothing. Well, if you really want to make money, I mean, a lot of people are predicting that lawyers' jobs could be soon replaced by AI. And that's a really interesting subject. I don't know enough about it. I've not read and researched enough about it. But a lot of these grads who are at the top of their game and they've been taught some of the highest qualities of analysis, communication, dissection, and argument, constructing a critical argument through their law degree, for the first, year of their couple of years, their training contract, they're essentially glorified secretaries just doing form filling, paperwork, and photocopying. Now, every job across the board, whether you're a trainee doctor, whether you're a trainee bricklayer, or whether you are a trainee gardener, you're going to do your fair share of admin stuff. I just think what a shame to have built those skills and to be, in the top 1% of, the world in terms of your academic achievement, and then just spending all of your hours photocopying, even though the salary is great. And that always takes me back to that difficult question of, why are you doing a law degree? Why do you want to be a lawyer? Is it for social status? And that was a big question that I'm constantly faced with. And that's a program in my head that I'm trying to constantly come to terms with, is, am I just doing these things? Am I doing these things to look more successful to society, rather than that's what's making me happy? And that's a tough question. That's only something that you can answer. If you really want to make money, don't be a lawyer. People often say be a banker, but I actually think if people really want to make really good money, it's about either learning skills that are really are really required at the moment. A lot of people are coding and learning to code. And I really think that's more of a valuable skill now, and a more highly paid skill than being a lawyer. It's also kind of much cheaper and easier to access. There's so many resources online. There's so many tech jobs available. Also, if you really want to make quick money and just do a job that's going to make you really good money for a few years, working in cybersecurity and data privacy is like a huge industry, and every tech company needs cybersecurity teams, and that's a skill that you can learn. People often also assume that having a law degree itself is better than other humanities subjects. Essentially, what doing a law degree teaches you is you don't really learn any practical aspects of the law to be a lawyer or a solicitor or a barrister. You literally just learn what they say, how to think like a lawyer, which is literally research, analysis, critical, argumentative, communication, and, the academic format, the professional format of like footnoting, citing, referencing. Now, these things, as a lawyer, I could argue you could learn from any great humanities subject. You have to do the same things in history or in English lit, backing up your arguments constantly by citing. It would just be way more interesting if you're doing something you're actually passionate or interested about. Trust me, it's so hard to fake interest when you're writing. Like the driest essay on a really obscure part of land law, and I'm not saying that like people aren't interested in it. You could be really interested in easements, or like rights to like access like parts of land, but that's really, or like title and shifting of title or possession, but that's nothing that I'm really interested in. I was way more interested in poetry and literature and characters, and really the only scope that you get to kind of critically examine motive and character in law is criminal, but that's a really tiny part of a law degree. So if you want to do criminal, I would actually go into criminology rather than do a law degree, because that would be a lot more interesting for you. There's something else that's also quite a big factor that people talk about going to law school, and it might be relevant for some people, it might not be relevant for other people at all. But it's this notion of helping people. And I'm putting this in quotes because it's such a it's a subject that means different things to different people. Genuinely having an altruistic nature to your job is very, very rare. It's interesting if you look at YouTubers. Ali Abdal talks about this a lot, about being a junior doctor and the idea of helping people. There's many different ways to help people in various capacities, from doing voluntary work, charity, through to doing something that's a cause that's close to your heart, that transforms or affects people around you, through to finding a way to serve rather than being selfish for your own desires. I will never forget going to do my first legal work experience at HSBC Legal HQ in Canary Wharf when I was 16, and I was at the top floor in the commercial banking department, and it was a trainee lawyer who I was shadowing. And on the first day, I dressed up in a nice suit and I had my kind of bag with me, and I felt very important and posh going into Canary Wharf. I actually kind of sat around, did nothing most of my work experience. There wasn't much to actually do on the desk. But he kind of said to me, why do you want to be a lawyer? And I said, oh, I want to help people. Yet, he looked at me as if I was the most wide-eyed, naive 16-year-old who had grand ambitions of kind of changing the world. And I also, reflection, look back at me, you think, okay, I hadn't had a law degree at that point, I had no legal skills, and I was in Canary Wharf, I was in a commercial banking department for finance, and you're not helping people in that situation at all. You are literally making the company and other companies that use that bank millions of pounds by legalizing their transactions and their business protocols and processes. So that's one thing. The other thing you have to bear in mind, and I just found an article that I'm going to post on my description below by Tucker Max on Huffington Post. His article is called Why You Shouldn't Go to Law School. You go and do a law degree with a grand notion of helping people, yet during your law degree and afterwards you find out that human rights lawyers are amongst some of the lowest paid professions in the world. A lot of people, if you want to work for the Crown Prosecution Service, work, for very nominal fees or for free. And the reality of the situation is you've just spent tens, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds on legal education and the legal qualification afterwards. So taking a job that will pay you less than minimum wage, where you have to work double the amount of hours, isn't a reality where you can even pay off your debt and pay your rent. So that's another thing to bear in mind about helping people in a more holistic way. I'm really into content creation, art, literature, and travel and fashion and all these kind of cultural things that mean a lot to me. And I think if you can build yourself any platform of influence, not exactly being an influencer, but having a general platform, on speaking on which things you're passionate about and building an audience following, you have a much higher likelihood of spreading awareness of some of the causes that you're really passionate and important about through those pockets of influence and sphere of influence there, than you might have being as a corporate lawyer. As a corporate lawyer, some of my friends have said that they get very minimal time as kind of almost like a box check off for pro bono work, and it's more just to kind of say that you've done it, and they're not also sure necessarily how impactful or helpful those pro bono clinics are. Also maybe quite limited in reach, but I might be wrong. If you are a corporate lawyer and you do a lot of pro bono work and it's really wide reaching, then please say in the comments below, and I'm really happy to kind of change my opinion on that. But imagine, for example, a YouTuber that has 100,000 subscribers and does one video about, for example, male suicide rates, and is kind of passionately campaigning about that, one of his videos. That might reach hundreds of thousands of people more than doing one pro bono clinic once every 2 months as a lawyer. There are different ways of having influence and impact and changing and reaching people around you, and you don't necessarily have to think just in the boxes that going to law school sets you up for. And this is another general thing as well. I've always been a very creative soul who has never really followed the trend or wanted to be like other people, or necessarily kind of put myself in a box or label myself as something per se. And that might also go down with my kind of personal identity of being like queer in general, you know, kind of non-straight defining, and that gives you a lot more freedom to kind of play with your identity and experiment. What happens is slowly as you go through law school, you're almost trained to think in very tight labels and boxes, and you then become so kind of fearful of experimenting and trying other things and new things. It's very much absorbing of the culture, and it's like, you know, this has been written about by Tim Ferriss, who I also love, and a lot of other people, these very high achieving grads who go to the top schools, whether it's law, business, you know, kind of accountancy in the country, and they go on to very good grad schemes. They're kind of funneled into these very narrowly thinking jobs, and throwing a lot of money at them. So you know, they're trained not to experiment. There's a fear of experimenting. Everyone wants security, and that want for security heightens during times of stress, anxiety, and uncertainty, like we've just had in a pandemic. And it doesn't encourage people to try new things. People are often scared of, you know, having a kind of corporate career and, you know, having a professional image to kind of uphold and with their boss and colleagues, but also being able to express themselves as, you know, if you want to be a drag queen, go be a drag queen. That's an amazing career. And I know people that do that full time and make money from it and love it, and it's a whole life. Or, you know, if you want to, you know, have a blog, and people are afraid to start a blog or a YouTube channel because they've, you know, what if their boss sees it or their colleagues see it? And this idea of choosing life choices for yourself out of fear rather than out of love is something that I'm always dissecting and reflecting on. And law school for me definitely was a choice of fear. And my experience can make even one other person shift their, you know, viewpoint or decision, that is not a waste experience from me. So, and there's a point I want to finish on as well, and that's more of something that's like way more important for me personally, I guess. But as I said, losing like a parent really, really young makes me remember that life is so short. And I've also met so many people who are like, oh, I'll do, you know, the law career for like a few years and then I'll do what I really want to do. I often think, why not just do what you really want to do now? Even if it's in a small way, if you can't really afford to do it in a big way, everyone has resources around them. Most people have a mobile phone, they can create things on there. You don't need a big budget to create lots of things, you know, from a small point of view. The other thing is, you know, 99% of people who say they'll just do a law thing because it's good money for 2 years, never just do it for 2 years. It is so, you get so accustomed to that income and that money coming in, and then you start buying a mortgage and then you start kind of having financial responsibilities, and you find it also very hard to kind of take a salary lower than what you're getting accustomed to. So you never really can just look at doing something like law for just 2 years before doing something else. A lot of lawyers I know are people that were dissuaded from following arts careers, and there are so many ways to make money by even just writing remote content writing at the moment, and being able to travel as a digital nomad. That's what you want to do with that. Or, you know, working as a staff writer for a magazine, something that you're really interested or passionate about, doing journalism. There's so many options out there. And I think also even just saying yourself doing it for a couple of years is slightly putting yourself in denial. I mean, you've also got to pay back that debt that you built to become a lawyer. And yes, like the, you know, career progression can be fast, and the amount that you earn can be really, really high, but that takes years to get to partner level. And I also know lawyers who have almost got to partner level and either burnt out or hated it so much that they've, you know, left law completely after investing 6 or 7 years in it, and then regretted what that time wasted, but that they could have spent on other things. So just before you apply to law school, or if you are about to start law school, I would really just, you know, consider those options and think, you're not a failure if you don't become a lawyer. And if you've got amazing grades, amazing. There are so many things out there that you can do. The effort you've got to put in that you owe to yourself is researching those options. And I was reading a really beautiful set of quotes online the other day, and someone left one saying that it's your duty to live a life that you love, and that can't ring more true for me. So yeah, law is not something that I love, and here I am on a new chapter trying something new. If you like this video, please like, please subscribe, please leave me comments and let me know what else you want to see. I'd like to do more of these types of videos, but yeah, I hope that gives you a little introduction on this subject and let you know a bit more about me. And here's to the future. I'll see you guys soon. Have a good evening, weekend, morning, whenever you're watching this. Peace.